Hey, it's me. Let's bring together a few things that we've been exploring lately. You'll probably notice how everything connects. Now, before we dive into that, I do want to start by talking about pain, what it really is, and where it comes from. Pain, at its core, is the result of inner conflict. It happens when we're pulled in two different directions. One part of us wants growth, love, truth, connection, and joy. That's the natural flow of life. But then there's another part that resists that flow, maybe out of fear, hurt, or a misunderstanding. And it's the tug of war between the two parts that causes pain, not the situation itself, rather the tension we feel from being torn inside. This is true on every level, even in the body. The body always tries to move toward healing and balance, but when something blocks that flow, like illness or unresolved emotions, it creates tension. And that tension causes physical pain. You can actually feel this when you stop fighting the pain and instead surrender to it. Many people have found that when they stop resisting and just allow what is, the pain eases. Sometimes it even disappears. I've witnessed this countless times in my clinical practice. Now, here's the strange part. Often we say we want to heal when deep down, another part of us doesn't. Maybe because healing would require change or facing something uncomfortable. That inner contradiction creates pain. If we become aware of both sides, the part that wants healing and the part that resists it, and accept that both are there, the struggle softens. And with that softening, pain also softens. This doesn't mean we're giving up or becoming passive. It just means we're finally seeing and allowing the truth of what is. It's what Jesus meant when he said, "Resist not evil." When we stop struggling against ourselves, something shifts. There's a peace that starts to open up. Now, on the emotional or mental level, the same applies. If we try to push away uncomfortable thoughts or feelings, we suffer more. If we accept them, not as forever, but as something that's here right now, we can start to feel some relief. We can stop the inner fight. Now, on the spiritual level, it's a bit different. That part of us, the deepest, truest part, is pure and whole. It doesn't know struggle or pain. It's already aligned with love, truth, and unity. So when we're in touch with that part of ourselves, we don't feel torn. There's only peace. The problem comes when our surface self, the part that's shaped by fears, wounds, and confusion, when that gets disconnected from our deeper truth. And then we start pulling ourselves in two directions. Part of us wants to grow and connect, and another part wants to hide, protect, or shut down. And that internal split is where suffering comes from. Here's something really important to understand. No one can fully want the negative. No one can fully want the negative. We might want it partly, but never completely. There's always another part of us that's calling us toward healing, connection, and love. That's why there's tension. That's why there's pain. Because part of us knows that what we're doing, thinking, or believing doesn't feel right deep down. So pain, in a way, is a signal. It's letting us know that we're out of alignment with our true self. Many of us, as we grow and do this inner work, start to see places where we've actually chosen the negative. Not consciously, but once we become aware of it, everything changes because we're no longer powerless. We realize that we've had a hand in creating our suffering. And that means we also have the power to create something different. This is a major turning point. Just seeing that you've been wanting something that causes harm, maybe to yourself or others, it opens a door. It might not mean that you're ready to let go of that pattern right away. Even knowing it's there gives you clarity, it gives you choice, and it starts to dissolve the feeling of being a victim to your life. If you've already started seeing some of your negative desires, that's a powerful step. Keep going. Try to trace them to the places in your life that aren't working. Your struggles, your pain points. It's easy to disconnect the two, but they're absolutely linked. We often want something positive and negative at the same time, and then we wonder why we're stuck or in pain. Now, if you haven't found your negative desires yet, don't worry. Start by being honest about what's missing in your life. Where do you feel unfulfilled? What parts of your life are difficult or disappointing? Can you sit with that discomfort instead of brushing it aside or pretending it's not there? And then from there, ask, is it possible that some part of me wants this pain? That some part of me is avoiding the very thing I say I want? That question alone can start to open things up. We all carry patterns, ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that tend to repeat. Some are life-giving, some are self-defeating. Once you bring them into awareness, you get to choose. You stop being a leaf blowing in the wind and start becoming the author of your own life. This path is really about learning to see clearly. When you do, you'll notice something beautiful. Positive thoughts, open-hearted actions, and loving choices build on each other. They compound. They create more of the same. That's the self-perpetuating cycle of growth. Just like negativity can create more negativity, positivity and truth have a momentum of their own. Once it starts, it's like a current that carries you forward. This principle isn't just spiritual, it's scientific. I mean, in nature, in the body, in energy, everything moves in cycles. What we put out continues to grow in some form. Our inner world creates our outer experience. So the more you become aware of your inner patterns, the more power you have to shift your reality. Now, there's so much more to say, and I'll continue in the next part. But for now, pause and reflect. Where in your life are you resisting what's already there? Where are you caught in a tug of war between love and fear, between wanting something and pushing it away? And can you sit gently with that? This is the doorway to peace, not perfection, truth. And truth always sets us free. Now, let's talk about something that might feel a little uncomfortable at first. But again, it's really important. And I want you to know that bringing compassion to this part of yourself is the key to real healing and growth. One of the biggest reasons we struggle to look at ourselves fully is because we're afraid of what we might find. Not just sadness or fear or insecurity, but at times something even harsher. Something like cruelty or meanness. And let's be honest, most of us don't want to admit that part of us could ever feel that way. Here's the thing. Those impulses don't make you bad. They just mean you're human. You see, when we were kids, we had this soft, vulnerable part of us, a place full of pure feeling and pure sensitivity. And when that part got hurt or misunderstood, we didn't always know what to do with the pain. So we started protecting ourselves. Sometimes that meant shutting down, getting cold, toughening up, or even without realizing it, lashing out. We didn't do it to be cruel. We did it to survive. We thought, if I can't be soft, then I'll be strong. If I can't be loved, then I won't need anyone. And over time, we buried that soft inner center under layers of defense. That vulnerable center, it's still inside you. And the truth is, it's not weak at all. It's the most alive, wise, and powerful part of you. It's where your joy, creativity, and love live. To reconnect with it, we have to be willing to see the layers we built to cover it up. We have to be brave enough to meet the parts of ourselves we've judged or avoided. Cruelty, whether it shows up as sharp thoughts, harsh judgments, or withholding love, is really just a misdirected way of protecting ourselves. It's not our true nature. And when we can finally say, yes, I felt this, and I want to understand it, something beautiful begins to happen. The judgment lifts, the tension softens, and we come home to ourselves. So how do we start? Well, first, by being honest about what's really going on inside. When something hurts you, when someone says or does something that triggers you, try not to immediately act on it or push it down. Pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? What story am I telling myself about this? What part of me is hurting? And how is it trying to protect me? Sometimes you'll find that the reaction is coming from old pain. Sometimes you'll find that you've misread the situation. And other times you'll uncover an urge to retaliate or maybe shut down. And that's all okay. That's just another layer. You're not bad for having it. You're brave for seeing it. Okay, so here's something I think powerful to remember. The more you're willing to see your own fear, your own pain, your own reactions, the less power they have over you. The more you're willing to see your own fear, your own pain, your own reactions, the less power they have over you. You stop being driven by them, and instead you begin to work with them. And that's where true freedom begins. Now, you may be wondering, why does this even matter? Why dig into these parts of ourselves at all? Because pain isn't just about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening inside of you. And when you heal the inner conflict, you change your entire experience of life. You start to feel more peaceful, more grounded, more whole. You're no longer pulled in opposite directions. You begin to move in harmony with yourself and with life. This doesn't mean you never feel sadness or anger or fear again. It does mean that those feelings won't own you. They won't define you. and they won't keep you stuck in the same painful cycles anymore. You'll start to notice something else too. The more honest and compassionate you are with yourself, the more compassion you have for others. You'll stop needing them to be perfect. You'll stop reacting so strongly when they make mistakes, because you'll know they're struggling with their own layers too. And you'll meet them not with judgment, but with understanding. Little by little, that creates a different world, a softer one, a more human one. So for now, here's a gentle invitation. When something feels painful, don't run from it. Don't shame yourself for it. Sit with it. Let it speak and listen. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I resisting? What part of me is still hurting? Is there something I'm holding on to that perhaps I could begin to let go? And then offer this part of you the kindness you may have never received when you needed it most. Now let's talk about something most of us have felt at some point. Ache of wanting closeness with someone, while at the same time being terrified of it. This is one of the deepest and most painful inner conflicts we carry. On one hand, we long to be seen, to be met, to be loved. On the other hand, that very closeness feels threatening because it means letting down our guard. It means being vulnerable again. And that's scary, when in the past, love or connection might have come with hurt, rejection, or loss. So what do? Well, we tend to push and pull. We reach for closeness. And then when it gets too close, we shut down. We withdraw, get cold, put up walls. Or maybe we pick a fight, pull away emotionally, or distract ourselves with something else. And often we don't even realize we're doing it. We just feel the pain of disconnection. We feel frustrated with the other person. We tell ourselves they're the problem, or that maybe we're just not cut out for love, or that we're better off alone. Underneath all of that, there's just fear. It's not that we don't want love. We're just afraid of what might happen if we actually let it in. Here's something that might help. This fear doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means there's a part of you that got hurt before. And now it's trying to protect you the only way it knows how, by pulling back, by closing off. And that's okay. That part of you isn't bad. It just needs some understanding. It needs you to gently bring it into awareness, to let it know, I see you. I know you're afraid. And I'm not going to shame you for that. And we don't have to keep doing this. We can try something new. You see, the pain of these push-pull dynamics doesn't just come from what's happening between you and another person. It comes from the tug-of-war happening inside of you. There's one part of you that wants love, warmth, and connection, and another part that doesn't trust it and feels safer keeping people at arm's length. And every time those parts pull in opposite directions, you feel tension. That's where the suffering is born, just as we talked about earlier. And if the person you're relating to is going through their own version of that same inner conflict, it gets even more complicated. Now It's just not your fear and their fear. It's both of your protective strategies clashing, creating more misunderstanding, more distance, more hurt. But there is a way through. It starts with recognizing your part in the pattern, not with blame, with gentle curiosity. Ask yourself, when I start to feel close to someone, do I subtly pull away? Do I feel more comfortable when I'm longing for love than when I'm actually receiving it? What story am I telling myself about what might happen if I let someone in? Once you start seeing your pattern, you can bring choice into it. You can slow it down. You could take a breath instead of reacting automatically. And little by little, you can teach that scared part of you that love doesn't have to mean danger, that you're not the helpless child you once were, that you can hold yourself through the tenderness of connection, and that you can stay. Because here's the beautiful truth. You were made for connection. You were made for connection. Your deepest nature is not isolation or fear. It's unity. It's love. It's the desire to know and be known, to give and receive. And yes, that can feel risky. It's also where the deepest healing happens. Not by forcing yourself to open, by gently letting your guard soften, one moment at a time. This is where the work becomes relational, not just with others, with yourself. You learn to stay present with your own fear, your own pullback, without making it wrong. You stop judging the part of you that wants to bolt. And in doing so, you begin to dissolve the fear itself. Eventually, the need to protect softens, and something new begins to bloom. The ability to be with another as your full self. The ability to love and let yourself be loved. So here's something else that's important to understand. Something that can explain why we hold on to patterns, even when they cause us pain. There's a part of us, a very old part, that sometimes attaches pleasure to the very thing that hurts us. I know that might sound strange at first, but let's walk through it together. Let's say you've experienced rejection in the past, maybe as a child or in a close relationship. That pain, that fear of rejection gets stored in your body and your subconscious. And now whenever a situation even resembles that old experience, your system tenses up. You brace yourself. You push people away before they can get too close. And after a while, this pushing away starts to feel oddly satisfying, like a kind of twisted comfort. Like, I knew I couldn't trust them, or I don't need anyone anyway. It's like the pain becomes familiar, and the familiarity brings a kind of warped relief, almost a sense of power. That's what we mean when we talk about the negative pleasure principle. It's when part of you starts to enjoy the very state you say you want to get rid of. You might find yourself replaying old wounds, not because you truly want to suffer, but because some unconscious part of you has learned to feel safe in the suffering, or powerful in the blaming, or validated in the despair. It can show up in subtle ways, like fixating on someone else's faults instead of facing your own vulnerability, or finding comfort in being misunderstood because it confirms a long-held belief that no one really sees you. These moments of pleasure are not joyful in the true sense. They're not nourishing. They're more like addictive hits of familiarity, and they keep us stuck. Again, it's not about judging ourselves for having these patterns. It's not about saying, see, I must be broken if I'm secretly enjoying my pain. No, not at all. This is about understanding how your system has been trying to protect you all along, even when it doesn't work. When you can gently acknowledge the part of you has found comfort in the negative, you can also begin to choose something different. You can say to yourself, okay, I see what's happening here. Don't need to keep feeding this old loop. I want something real now, something true. Because the real pleasure, the kind that brings peace, expansion, and deep fulfillment, never comes from judgment or defense or pain. It comes from openness, from truth, from allowing yourself to feel, to soften, to connect. And yes, that kind of pleasure takes courage because it means letting go of old armors. But I do promise you this, it's worth it. That's the kind of pleasure that heals, the kind that leaves you feeling more whole, not more fractured. So if you catch yourself getting stuck in negative pleasure, whether it's the satisfaction of blaming, the comfort of being the victim, or the strange high of emotional withdrawal, don't shame yourself. Just notice it. Get curious about it. And then ask, is this really the kind of pleasure I want to keep choosing? You have a choice. And when you choose to shift, to step out of that loop, even just a little, you begin to build new pathways. You start to create a self-perpetuating cycle of positive pleasure, one that grows stronger with each act of presence, each small opening, each moment of kindness toward yourself. So, how do we shift out of the loop of negative pleasure and start building something new? Well, it begins with a decision. A quiet, honest, humble decision to want something different. Not in a forced or frantic way, in a sincere way. Something that sounds like this. I want to let go of what hurts me, even if some part of me is still clinging to it. I want to open to the kind of pleasure that heals. And then we practice. We begin to notice the choices we make in the little moments. The choice to soften instead of tense. The choice to stay instead of run. The choice to tell the truth instead of hide. These moments may seem small. They're everything. They're how we reclaim our wholeness. This is where the positive pleasure principle comes into play. Just like the negative pleasure principle cycle can feed on itself and spiral downward, positive one can build and spiral upward. When you choose a new response, one rooted in truth, love, courage, you feel just a little bit more whole. That sense of alignment, even if subtle, brings relief. It brings spaciousness. It feels good, not in a high drama way, but in a steady, nourishing way. And that feeling, in turn, inspires more of the same. One act of compassion leads to more compassion. One moment of truth-telling makes space for deeper honesty. One risk of vulnerability creates a ripple of connection. This is how the positive begins to sustain itself. Now, here's something important. Just because you're on this path doesn't mean the negative patterns instantly disappear. That old pull will still show up. The pain of conflict, especially in relationships, can still feel sharp and confusing. You might long for closeness and at the same time feel yourself pulling away. You might crave connection and also feel scared of being seen. And when someone else is going through the same thing, when they are in their own push-pull, it can get even messier. One person leans in, the other pulls back. Then they switch, or both retreat, or both try to connect. But it's tentative and guarded, like trying to hug with armor on. This dance, it happens all the time. Between friends, between lovers, between parents and children. And unless we become conscious of it, the pain repeats. That's why this work is so important. Because once you understand what's really happening, once you stop blaming yourself or the other person and start seeing the patterns, you can begin to choose something new. You can pause when you feel yourself withdrawing. You can speak the fear before it becomes a wall. You can stay with the part of you that longs for connection instead of abandoning it to the voice that says, don't bother, it's too risky. And slowly, over time, those inner divisions begin to heal. The split between what you want and what you fear starts to dissolve. The distance between you and the people you love gets smaller. The space between your soul and your life becomes one. When the split begins to heal, when the tug of war between what we want and what we fear starts to settle, something amazing happens. We begin to experience unity, not just as a concept, as a felt sense, a deep, steady knowing that who we are, what we long for, and the life we're living are no longer at odds. Unity doesn't mean we never feel pain again. It doesn't mean we never feel fear or doubt. It does mean that we no longer fight against ourselves. We don't keep pushing one part down while trying to lift another up. We stop dividing our inner world into good and bad. Instead, we begin to listen, to include, to hold all of ourselves with care. In unity, even our pain becomes purposeful. It becomes a doorway, a signal that something within us is asking to be seen, understood, loved, integrated. And from this inner unity, our relationships shift too. We stop needing others to fix our pain or prove our worth. We stop bouncing between extremes, clinging and withdrawing, blaming and appeasing. We start showing up with more steadiness, more openness, more honesty. We become safe to be close to because we are safe within ourselves. We become clear and soft at the same time, able to say yes when it's a true yes, no when it's a true no, and hold space for others to do the same. This is the beginning of real freedom. Not the freedom to escape or disconnect, the freedom to be yourself fully and to let others be themselves too. From here, love becomes less of a performance and more of a presence. We stop striving and start allowing. We stop reacting and start responding. We stop trying to earn worthiness and begin to remember that we are already worthy because we exist, because we feel, because we are. And this, my friend, is the invitation that life is always offering us: to come home to ourselves, to meet the places in us that hurt, not with more judgment or control, with curiosity and compassion. To remember that underneath every pattern of withdrawal, every fear of closeness, every push and pull is a longing to love and be loved, and to know, deeply, truly know, that the path home is not about fighting the darkness. It's about reclaiming the light that's been there all along. You are not broken. You're remembering your wholeness. And every time you choose honesty over hiding, softness over fear, connection over control, you are stepping deeper into that wholeness. You're returning to the truth of who you really are. And that, my friend, changes everything. Love you. Connect soon.